Our protagonist, Mason Mac Calloway, owner and head chef of his once beloved bistro, the Rustic Fork, lives for creating innovative dishes and nurturing a warm community atmosphere. For Mac, his restaurant is more than a business. It's a lifelong passion born of years of culinary training and personal sacrifice. Every morning before the sun rises, he arrives at his charming brick-and-mortar property, a building with a history and character that mirrors his own dreams, and meticulously prepares for another day of service. Mac's restaurant, tucked away on a tree-lined street in a close-knit neighborhood, has become a local treasure. His kitchen, where he experiments with recipes and sources fresh ingredients from local farms, is as much a sanctuary as it is a place of work. But beneath this veneer of culinary artistry lies an unexpected battle brewing on the front lawn. Enter Karen. Not just any Karen, but the self-appointed, overzealous president of the local homeowners association, HOA. Dressed in power suits and armed with a clipboard full of community guidelines, she has long believed that every resident and every business owner operating from their property must toe the line to her idea of suburban perfection. Karen's latest edict? A demand that Mac quit his own restaurant because, in her eyes, the aroma of sizzling garlic and basil wafting across the community is an unsightly disturbance. During the first confrontation, Karen strides up to Mac on a brisk morning. With a smug smile and an aura of entitlement, she unfurls a final notice detailing alleged violations: the restaurant's outdoor seating arrangement, its vibrant signage, and even the friendly chatter of satisfied customers. The rules are clear, she declares in a tone meant to silence any resistance. You're not compliant with our community standards. Mac, who has always believed in fairness and local law, calmly listens. He explains that his restaurant operates under a valid business license, is in full compliance with health codes, and has been an asset to the neighborhood. But Karen's mind is made up before she even hears him out. The clash of ideals is set: a man driven by passion and community spirit versus an HOA enforcer whose concept of order leaves little room for creativity. As neighbors peek from behind curtains and shop windows, the scene is set for an epic showdown. Mac's pride and livelihood are at stake, and the seeds of resistance are sown. The restaurant's warmth and success now face an uphill battle against an HOA that would rather see conformity than celebrate diversity. The following morning, Mac discovers a stark white envelope taped to his weathered door. Inside is an official notice, a $750 fine for disrupting neighborhood peace by operating a business with an inappropriate ambience. Karen's signature, bold and unapologetic, appears at the bottom, as if to punctuate her absolute authority. Outside, Karen stands on the front lawn, arms crossed and a self-satisfied glint in her eyes. The rules apply to everyone, Mac, she tells him in a tone that brooks no argument. For her, every detail matters, even if it means sacrificing the community's vibrant character for the sake of her own misguided order. Mac, never one to back down, immediately consults local ordinances and zoning laws. As a savvy business owner, he knows his rights, and he isn't about to let an overzealous board president ruin his livelihood. He sends a formal reply disputing the fine and outlining the legal basis for his restaurant's operations. In his letter, Mac cites permits, health department inspections, and testimonials from loyal patrons, all underscoring the legitimacy of his work. Karen, however, is unrelenting. In a dramatic escalation, she calls in the community inspectors to verify her claims. Soon, a group of officials arrives at the Rustic Fork, clipboards in hand, and begins a cursory investigation. The atmosphere quickly turns from cordial to combative as Mac calmly responds to each inquiry with documented evidence and a cool resolve. Her smug assurances, however, falter when Mac's evidence contradicts the arbitrary claims. Despite this, Karen remains determined, her face reddening with indignation, as she declares that the inspector's findings will prove his noncompliance. In a scene witnessed by a growing crowd of concerned locals, Mac stands his ground, determined to protect not just his business, but the community's right to a lively and independent spirit. This early power play leaves a bitter taste in the mouths of onlookers. It's clear that the HOA, under Karen's reign, has little interest in fairness. Mac's calm defiance and preparedness to challenge unjust authority mark the beginning of what will become a full-blown conflict between creative independence and stifling conformity. As days turn into a tense standoff, Karen's tactics grow increasingly brazen. No longer content with fines and warnings, she begins to issue false violations, alleging that Mac's restaurant is a fire hazard, that the outdoor decor is in violation of aesthetic guidelines, and even hinting at eviction if he refuses to shape up. Mac, disturbed by these baseless allegations, digs deeper. His research reveals unsettling patterns, whispers among other homeowners about how Karen has bullied numerous residents with unfounded fines, and how funds collected from these penalties mysteriously vanish from the HOA coffers. Late one evening, a disillusioned board member discreetly approaches Mac with damning details. This insider reveals that Karen has been misappropriating HOA funds for her personal luxuries, all while enforcing rules that serve only her narrow view of perfection. Galvanized by this discovery, Mac embarks on a covert investigation. He sets up small cameras near the disputed areas, documenting the irregularities in Karen's actions. Every unsolicited visit from inspectors and every unexplained fine is logged meticulously. As Mac gathers undeniable proof of corruption, he also reaches out to other affected homeowners. What begins as one man's defiant stand quickly morphs into a broader grassroots movement among those tired of Karen's overreach. In hushed conversations at community barbecues and discreet notes passed between neighbors, the truth about the HOA's mismanagement begins to emerge. Mac becomes both a leader and a beacon of hope, a man who isn't afraid to stand up to entitlement and abuse of power. Meanwhile, Karen's aggressive measures only serve to further isolate her. Some board members start questioning her harsh policies, noting that her methods are less about community improvement and more about personal vendettas. The mounting evidence forces the community to reckon with the fact that their supposed guardian of neighborhood standards is anything but impartial. Mac's quiet determination and methodical counterattack create a ripple effect, setting the stage for a dramatic turning point in this suburban saga. In a shocking turn of events, one morning Mac awakens to a scene that seems ripped from a nightmare. Heavy machinery parked in front of the rustic fork, and workers dismantling part of his driveway. Karen's latest claim? That the HOA is expanding sidewalks to improve community safety. Instead of relief, Mac feels outrage, a final overstep of power that demands immediate action. Determined not to be pushed around any longer, Mac gathers his evidence and prepares for a public showdown. At the next HOA meeting, a packed room of curious and frustrated neighbors listens as Mac steps forward. He unveils a thick file of legal documents, inspection reports, and security footage, all irrefutable proof that the HOA, under Karen's orders, has no authority over his property. The silence in the room is palpable. Board members exchange uneasy glances as Mac explains, in measured yet impassioned tones, how his rights as a business owner and homeowner are being trampled upon by a board that has lost its way. Karen, unruffled but desperate, retorts with a series of half-hearted justifications and legal jargon. Yet the tide is turning. The community, now fully aware of the corruption at hand, begins to question every decision made by their so-called protectors. In the midst of the chaos, several longtime residents step forward, sharing their own experiences of harassment and fines. The energy in the room shifts from tense to revolutionary. Mac's calm, confident demeanor in the face of blatant injustice has not only exposed the flaws in the HOA's procedures, but it has also united a fragmented community. Despite Karen's frantic attempts to regain control, her voice is drowned out by the collective demand for accountability. The day ends with an unmistakable message. Karen's overreach will no longer be tolerated, and the community is prepared to fight for its rights, no matter how deep the corruption runs. Cornered and desperate, Karen launches one last gambit. This time, she decides to involve law enforcement directly. One evening, as twilight settles over the neighborhood, Karen phones the local police, falsely reporting that the inviting outdoor ambience of the rustic fork constitutes a public disturbance. When the officers arrive, Mac greets them with calm authority. Flaunting his credentials and extensive documentation, he explains that the restaurant operates strictly within legal bounds and that Karen's complaint is nothing more than an attempt to intimidate. The police, already briefed on the matter by Mac's previous inquiries with local authorities, find little to warrant further action, and their presence only serves to undermine Karen's credibility. Not willing to let her plans falter, Karen resorts to hiring a private investigator to dig up any dirt on Mac. Unbeknownst to her, Mac's earlier surveillance efforts have already captured a startling moment. Footage of the investigator sneaking into the restaurant's garage, clearly overstepping boundaries. At the next HOA meeting, with tension at a fever pitch, Mac plays the incriminating footage for every resident present. The crowd's shocked murmurs grow into a resounding chorus of disbelief and anger. Karen's meticulously constructed facade of authority shatters in front of everyone. Even those who had once supported her begin to distance themselves, realizing that her actions are not only illegal, but morally indefensible. In this decisive moment, Karen's final desperate move backfires spectacularly. The public exposure of her shady tactics marks the beginning of the end for her reign. Mac's evidence is irrefutable, and the community is now fully united in its condemnation of Karen's abuse of power. The community's outrage reaches a tipping point. In a dramatic, impassioned vote, the homeowners collectively decide that Karen is no longer fit to govern their community. Within days, news spreads that the HOA board has voted her out, and investigations into the board's finances are launched by local authorities. The collapse of the HOA's power structure is swift and decisive. Karen, now isolated and discredited, finds herself facing an avalanche of fines and legal penalties. Her once pristine home, a symbol of her misguided authority, is marked for sale as the community rallies behind Mac's call for justice. For Mac, the victory is bittersweet. Though he has been at the center of a heated battle that cost him sleepless nights and countless challenges, he now finds solace in knowing that the community has reclaimed its voice. Sitting on his now peaceful, well-lit porch, Mac watches as former adversaries come forward to express their gratitude. His restaurant, once under siege by arbitrary fines and overbearing rules, is now a beacon of hope and resilience, a testament to the power of standing up for what's right. In a scene that blends relief with triumph, Mac sips his coffee as neighbors share stories of similar battles won. The sense of unity is palpable, and for the first time in a long while, the community looks toward the future with optimism rather than fear. In the aftermath of Karen's ouster, local authorities launch a full-scale investigation into the HOA's operations. The evidence gathered by Mac and other community members leads to severe penalties. The HOA is fined heavily for illegally enforcing arbitrary rules and mismanaging funds, and several board members are summoned to court. Mac, ever the principled defender of his rights and those of his neighbors, plays a key role in organizing a class action lawsuit. His legal advisors work with affected homeowners to ensure that justice is served and that such abuses of power are never repeated. The ruling is historic, a clear message that no one is above the law, not even those who once claimed to protect community standards. The personal repercussions for Karen are swift and humiliating. Once the face of the HOA, she is now a cautionary tale in local gossip. As her house is put up for sale at a drastic discount, even her closest allies distance themselves from her downfall. Rumors spread that her husband, unable to withstand the public disgrace, has filed for divorce, and her reputation in the community is irreparably tarnished. In a final twist of poetic justice, Mac encounters Karen by chance at a local employment agency. Now working as an assistant property manager for another HOA, one with a far more compassionate board, she is forced to confront the irony of her situation. Mac offers a wry smile and a parting comment that underscores the downfall of entitlement. I hope you enjoy following the rules this time. Her fall from grace is complete. As the dust settles, the neighborhood basks in a renewed sense of freedom and community. The rustic fork reopens without incident, its dining room filled with laughter, the clink of cutlery, and the savory aromas of dishes crafted with passion. Neighbors, now emboldened by the victory over tyranny, celebrate the newfound clarity of local governance. One afternoon, as Mac relaxes on his well-lit porch with a cup of coffee in hand, a friend approaches him with a playful smirk and a novelty HOA violation notice, this one absurdly citing excessive deliciousness. The crowd chuckles as Mac holds up the notice, his eyes twinkling with humor and satisfaction. They really tried, he remarks, a final mic drop moment that captures the spirit of the community. In that shared laughter, the neighborhood understands one enduring truth. When people stand together against entitlement, even the most overbearing forces can be overthrown. The story of Karen and the misguided HOA becomes a local legend, one that reminds everyone that creativity, community, and courage will always outshine outdated rules and baseless authority.